I love zombie games. Zombie games here, zombie games there, zombie games everywhere. I love me some zombie games. So much so that I decided, why not put together a top 10 list of zombie games? This list to put together was pretty hard to do. There's so many different kinds of zombie games, it really was difficult actually compiling a list that I felt would be appropriate to order 1 through 10 or something. Rules are 1 game per franchise. It has to be a game I've played. So by any chance, if there's a game not on here that you thought would be on here, it's more than likely because I haven't played it or I just didn't feel it would be appropriate for this list. And I guess the most important thing, it's my list, my opinion, so if my list is a list that you don't agree with, please don't get upset because we have a difference in opinion. So that being said, this is my top 10 zombie games in game. Zombies are no strangers to video games. Zombie games seem to be everywhere you look, especially these days. And that's because they're fun. A lot of people will say that they're tired of zombie games, but the fact is, most well-done zombie games will always retain their element of fun. The fear with zombies goes hand in hand with people not being people anymore. A person turned to a hunger-driven monster with no regard for self-preservation. And because in a reality where anyone can join the ranks of what could be mankind's biggest threat and civilization can fall virtually overnight, it's a simple concept that's easy to understand and overwhelming to envision in real life. Some of the greatest strengths that zombies typically have are their overwhelming numbers. Whether they're creatures that rise from the dead or are turned from the living, they always have a bloodlust to kill and eat when they don't need to. This is why we get these very primal fears due to very basic rules. They want to eat me, there's more of them than us, and there isn't much we can do against them because they won't care about their own well-being. But in lieu of that, zombies aren't unstoppable. Far from it. They're beatable. And this pays towards that mindset of making it easy to envision so many scenarios in the wake of an outbreak. And this is my top 10 zombie game list that I feel personally best encapsulates this. Dead Space 2. Dead Space was a great game, but Dead Space 2 did everything better. That's not to say that the first game was in need of repair or anything like that, but the changes that were made and put into Dead Space 2 did everything anyone would expect a sequel to do to improve a said series. Dead Space 2 is an incredible survival horror game and, to me, easily does what the somewhat recent installments in the Resident Evil series fails to deliver on. Dead Space 2 takes place in a city on Titan, one of Saturn's many, many moons. You know, because at first there was like 16 moons, then there was like 70 moons, and soon there's probably going to be like 100 plus moons. Science. Basically, everyone has turned into necromorphs due to the government's development of artificial markers from behind closed doors. Of course, like most government-driven projects that involve weaponizing some sort of virus, or in this case, an alien artifact that drives people crazy and eventually turns them into zombies, it doesn't go too well. This game really kicks it off and puts you into the fray as soon as the game starts. I mean, just look at what happens in the first couple minutes of starting the game.
Listen, you're in terrible, terrible danger.
With necromorphs, the rules to kill them are different than your traditional zombie. As opposed to just getting a headshot, with necromorphs you have to dismember them. This can arguably be more difficult as necromorphs by nature are very fast and aggressive. Necromorphs are much more resilient and can take copious amounts of punishment than your traditional zombie. So these guys are definitely a good change from the standard formula. The game is tense and creepy. You can see the viscera of people that have been ravaged by necromorphs as you explore the dark, dank corridors that you venture through, accompanied by the flickering lights and dim fluorescence. As a zombie game, this one no doubt delivers in its scare factor. By the way, for those of you who say necromorphs aren't zombies, here's the criteria. People die, this thing gets on them, and then they turn into monsters to kill you. Zombies. You know, Jesus is kind of like a zombie when you really think about it. Resident Evil 4. The Resident Evil franchise put survival horror on the map back in the 90s. For some, myself included, didn't get to experience it on PlayStation. Me, I was Team Nintendo. But now I'm Team Everything. Still rocking that 64 though. Resident Evil came back in full force in the GameCube, however, which gained me and many more as fans because of it. And, as an avid fan, to hear the announcement of Resident Evil 4 to come out exclusively for GameCube, I was extremely excited. A whole new Resident Evil game that had never before come out and was going to appear on the GameCube of all things. Resident Evil 4 reinvented the traditional Resident Evil formula and retooled it to have a more action-oriented approach. This worked to flesh out Leon Kennedy as a badass all the more, with him being able to contend with the enemies in the game. This never managed to jeopardize the horror elements of the game, and it still can prove to be quite a scary experience at times. This is something that has unfortunately been lost from the series since then. Maybe Resident Evil 7 will actually return to its roots and climb the ranks of survival horror once again. And look, for those of you saying that the enemies in this game technically aren't zombies and that the Las Plagas are just parasites, come on, it's a freaking Resident Evil game. Surely I can get a pass for that. Besides, I really feel like there would be more of an argument about the necromorphs being zombies and the Las Plagas being zombies. Come on, tell me I'm wrong. Undead Nightmare.
Uncle! You dumb son of a bitch! Stop!
Red Dead Redemption is an outstanding game, and in my opinion has aged very well. For a game that is 8 years old at the time of the making of this video, it holds up great, and the DLC, Undead Nightmare, is no different. It's a very robust addition to Red Dead Redemption, and actually can be picked up as a standalone game. That in itself should give you an idea of how good this DLC is, and that it can even rival the game that it's based off of. Undead Nightmare, in a lot of ways, serves as kind of an immediate sequel to the events that take place in the main game.
What is going on?
Well, sir, I'm a man of science, a man of great learning, a thinker, a wise man, and I'll be honest with you, sir, I haven't got a fucking clue.
This is good, because it builds on an already very good cast of characters that you have emotionally invested in. But as a game, it doesn't need you to have a full understanding of the continuity either. Undead Nightmare takes place in the early 1900s, around the time the Old West was starting to not be so wild anymore. Pun intended. This alone separates it from many other games that do the same thing by being pre-apocalyptic as opposed to post-apocalyptic. You run around the countryside to investigate the sudden outbreak of the undead while making your way from town to town, helping people along the way.
Guess I'll make a good man after all!
The standard rules apply here. You gotta go for the head. You can shoot a zombie numerous times, but if you don't shoot the head, they'll get back up and keep coming for you every time. Zombies come in droves and can be very unnerving, but I wouldn't have it any other way with my zombie games if I'm being honest. Also, being a cowboy game, so to speak, you could ride undead horses, which is very disturbing.
It looks like a dead bird, right?
You can also tame and ride the 4 horses of the apocalypse, a unicorn, hunt and kill a chupacabra, and even find Bigfoot.
Some maniac's been murdering us.
It's a great game. It's a great game. The Walking Dead.
I reckon you didn't do it then.
The Walking Dead series from Telltale Games is incredible. It takes a different, more narrative approach with its gameplay. Instead of a run-and-gun shooter, you have a more introspective point-and-click game. As of the making of this video, the Walking Dead Telltale series has 2 seasons out, and recently there was announced to be a 3rd. As for this list, I couldn't decide between the 2. So both seasons! To keep this spoiler free, I'll merely say this. The first season takes place in the wake of the outbreak, and the second season merely continues on.
Are you alright?
I'm still not bitten.
The game will force you to make decisions in certain situations and scenarios, and various outcomes, whether they may be small or big, will result based on previous choices you've made.
You know what? I'm not doing it tonight. You do it. There's today's food rations, but there's not enough for everyone. Good luck.
There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different ways to go through the game with the choices that are presented to you as you play. This gives the game an incredible amount of replayability. Given the nature of the gameplay, it's very easy to get invested in the characters as well as form opinions towards them.
Come on, Larry. Give it a rest, man. Things are different. Being a racist is outdated.
Oh, and that's what you think this is?
Probably one of the most soul-crushing things to deal with is that a lot of times there really isn't a right or wrong choice to make in a situation.
Not such an easy job, is it?
I don't envy you. I don't know how you have the strength to do this every day.
Sometimes you want to help everyone in your group, but you can't due to what you have at your disposal. Sometimes you have to choose who you can help fight off the hordes of zombies. Quite literally, sometimes you choose whether who lives and dies. There really is only choices. Some you may not agree with, but choices that you have to make all the same. Left 4 Dead 2. Left 4 Dead 2 is fun. It's very basic and there isn't much to it. But that's why there isn't anything to get in the way of the fun. I picked Left 4 Dead 2 over Left 4 Dead 1 due to the fact that if you get Part 2, you essentially get Part 1 as well. All the campaigns from the first game in the series is here. One of the very first games I got for my 360 was Left 4 Dead, and my wife and I played it non-stop. It was fun. You, along with 3 others, human players or otherwise, make your way through a stage to get to the end. The campaign is made up of usually 4 chapters, and each campaign is different. The levels are very well made due to the fact that they feel very open and explorable, but are still very linear, so it's hard to get lost. Not to say that that still doesn't happen sometimes, but whose fault is it really? Yours or the game's? Hordes of zombies are always around the corner. They aren't very difficult to kill at all, but if you get rushed by a horde of zombies and start getting limp-wristed because you're being overconfident, you might be surprised at how quickly you can be incapacitated and need an ally to revive you. One of the defining factors of this game, and something that seemed to set a new standard in zombie games to come, are the special infected. These zombies aren't your average shambling walkers or aggressive runners. These are zombies that have mutated and have special abilities at their disposal on top of their increased health and defense. Hunter, Smoker, Spitter, Charger, Jockey, Boomer, Tank, and the Witch. That's pretty much all of them. I always like the music cue that plays when one of them spawn nearby. This game under normal circumstances would have probably been higher on this list, to be honest. Or maybe not even be on it at all if it wasn't for one thing. I will admit that the game may have been getting a little stale way back when, but then I discovered PC gaming. And this was recent too, like late 2012. You know, when the world ended. I saw all these great mods that the very talented people in the community have made for all others to use. So not only does Left 4 Dead 2 run better on PC for the most part, but with all the community support for mods, the game always manages to stay fresh. There's a campaign where you can go through Kokiri Forest from Zelda and have to get to the end of the Forest Temple. And then there's another one where you have to journey up Death Mountain to get to the Fire Temple. There's a campaign where you can go through Silent Hill. There's a campaign where you go through Minecraft. There's maps where you can defend McDonald's. You can play as Link. You can play as Zelda. You can play as Mega Man X. You can play as Zero. There's so many things you can do to change the game that there is virtually always something fresh you can do in Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead 2. Plants vs. Zombies, Garden Warfare 2. Story time. So, I asked my wife to come in and give me her opinion on my top 10 list, right? So she reads it, and she's all like,
"Why is Garden Warfare on there?"
And I said, "It counts." And she said,
"But it's not just about zombies."
And I said, "Half of it is." And then she said,
"How?"
And I said, "Either you're fighting as a zombie, or you're fighting against a zombie. Zombies are always involved." And then she said,
"You're stupid."
So I said, "You're stupid." And then she said,
"If you leave it on there, you're not getting laid for a whole month."
And then I said, "It stays."
Make 'em say,
The Garden Warfare series is a spin-off of the tower defense game Plants vs. Zombies. I really don't like referring to it as a spin-off though, because the term spin-off gives me the impression of a game being very generic, and Garden Warfare is anything but. It's a very fleshed out online shooter, beaming with personality and character. And in this time where we're in the wake of more personality-driven FPS games, Garden Warfare 2 delivers. You can play as a plant and fight against the zombies, or you can play as a zombie and fight against the plants. You're not committed to either faction either. You can switch between them as you so please. There are different classes of characters on each side, and there's a multitude of variants for each class respectively that you can use. You have a basic character, and then this character can have several variations such as fire damage, ice damage, toxic damage, and not just simple elemental variations either. There's some character variants that can cause more damage than others in the same class, have more health, can move faster, and so on. And these two aren't just simple reskins to designate their differences. A variation of one character in one specific class compared to another in the same class still have differences that you can really appreciate because it makes the roster of characters in the game feel different. Even something so small as one character class having two different variations, even reload animations can be different from one variation to the other. The graphics are cartoonish and beautiful. There's different multiplayer modes respective to what you'd expect from an online shooter. But there's also single-player missions that are also very well done. They don't make you feel shortchanged. There's also side quests you can do, cooperative 4-player defense missions, collectibles to find, daily challenges. There's plenty to do. And sometimes it's just fun to roam around the backyard battleground and take in all the scenery. And it has zombies in it, so it's number 5. The Last of Us.
Man, you hit hard. Well, I was trying to kill you.
So tell me, how many of you were mad that this isn't my number 1 pick on this list? Well, before you unsub, just know that I love all of you very dearly. So let me tell you guys a little story. Back in 2013, I had been making my way in and out of GameStop and saw a lot of promotional cardboard cutouts advertising the game. I hadn't heard anything about it in passing like you would expect when someone is always on gaming channels on YouTube. After seeing it several times, I grew intrigued and asked the guy at GameStop about how long the game had been out, and he had told me that it wasn't even out yet. I was actually surprised and looked more into it in the following days. Father's Day was coming up, and my wife told me she wanted to get me something in particular, but at the last minute I asked her if she can get me The Last of Us instead. You know, just kind of on a whim. My point that I'm trying to get at is that I could have easily just looked past this game, and I would have likely played it, of course, after hearing all the critical acclaim it had received. But seeing as how I got in the game right around the time it came out, and not hearing very much about it from others, I was able to form my own opinion about it without having any kind of impression from an outside source. And I could say that The Last of Us is a great game, a great experience.
Buddy boy can go get it. He comes back with what I need.
The deer is all yours. Anyone else shows up...
You put one right between my eyes.
That's right.
This zombie apocalypse is a little bit different, but goes a long way. As opposed to some supernatural cause or a type of virus, the outbreak in this game is caused by a type of fungus called cordyceps, a real-world fungus that actually does a disturbingly parallel thing to insects.
Like something out of science fiction, the fruiting body of the cordyceps erupts from the ant's head. And it's not just ants that fall victim to this killer.
With the bulk of the game taking place 20 years after the outbreak, it's at this point that over 60% of the human population has been either killed or have succumbed to the fungal infection and have joined the ranks of the zombified hordes. There are pockets of societies, more or less, that struggle to keep order and civilization.
Please tell me you're lost.
We didn't know the place was occupied. We're just trying to make our way through.
Outside these quarantine zones, you can see nature's reclamation over the 20-year span. In all honesty, though, it does seem very beautiful. All that green. The trees, ivy, plants everywhere. As you play, you face multiple threats. Not just the infected, but bandits too. The Last of Us has a very strong narrative and conveys the proper storytelling elements consistently. It really makes you care about the characters, and in turn creates a sense of uneasiness, because you don't feel safe for their well-being very often.
Don't touch me.
Holy shit. She's infected.
You have your basic infected, people more recently infected by the fungus, that run at you and exhibit high levels of aggression with dulled motor skills. You then have stalkers. You come across them very rarely, but at this stage the host has been infected for a fair amount of time that's visually noticeable with the bioluminescent fungi beginning to protrude most predominantly from their eyes. The most recognizable infected from the series is the clicker. They have become completely blind due to the fungal plates that have grown out and completely cover their face. Since the host has become blind, they use echolocation, and it's due to this that they are given the name Clicker, respectively. This trait is also noticed in the previous iteration of the infected, as the stalkers have a less pronounced clicking sound too. You also have bloaters, fungal hives to traverse through. There's always dangers in The Last of Us, but that's what makes it such a great game. There is one thing I want to know though. What happened to Ish? Am I the only one who wants to know? Welcome to the 5 Rules of Zombies. Follow these and you're sure to succeed. Rule number 1. Get a window at the start of every match. By doing this, you're guaranteed points that are used as currency in the game. Rule number 2. Always aim for the head. No matter what, if you shoot zombies in the head, they can't hurt you. Head! Fucking bullshit! Rule number 3. Share the mystery box. The mystery box holds some of the most powerful weapons on the map. If you're fighting alongside others, then strong allies make a strong team. And a strong team is a winning team. No one let me hit the box, fucking bear! Rule number 4. Hold the zombie. Run circles to hold the last zombie so your friends can run around the map to find secrets for Easter eggs, buy more perks, and make purchases at the mystery box multiple times until they can get the weapon that they want. Rule number 5. Perk drops. Make sure that everyone reloads the weapons before picking up a max ammo perk. This will ensure that you and your team have the absolute maximum rounds at your disposal. If you have an insta-kill, make sure that you make use of your knife to conserve ammunition and maximize your points, especially if you have a double points along with it. During this time, if you see a nuke perk, make sure to stay away from it unless you have to save some of your friends. If you do grab the nuke, you'll kill every zombie on the map, wasting a perfectly good insta-kill perk in the process. However, you only have to worry about that when playing with incompetent people that don't know the 5 rules of zombies. Thank you everyone, and happy zombie hunting! Zombies on Call of Duty has become more prevalent over the years. Initially starting in World at War, it became a staple in the Black Ops series. The catalog of zombie maps have been getting more robust as the series has grown, and with Black Ops 3 was arguably their main selling point. The collector's edition was called the Juggernaut edition. I mean, I did a frickin' unboxing of it. So, check that out if you're still not clear. Of course, to be able to have such a robust catalog of zombie maps at your disposal, you would still require to have at least 3 games, and not everyone is stockpiling games like me. To have a comparable experience, or even a superior experience, is to get your PC Master Race! And get World at War on Steam, and like Left 4 Dead 2, you have virtually unlimited access to so many custom maps and mods. I've played zombies late, all the way into the early morning on multiple occasions, and with Black Ops 3, that sensation has been realized once more. Dying Light. Now look, I'm not going to get super into Dying Light, even though considering it's my number 2 game on this list. Reason being is I already made an almost hour-long video reviewing the game. I will say that I really like the game. I mean, I made a super long video, so I must have, right? Bottom line, I like the game. It's fun, blah blah blah. If you want more about that, click the link. Go check that out. It'll, any questions you may have, they will be answered surely there. So, on to number 1! Now, real quick before we go to number 1, I just want to point out real quick that this list was pretty hard to put together because there are a lot of zombie games that I really enjoyed playing and that are really good, but they just didn't quite make the cut. So, I just want to name a couple of honorable mentions.
This is a Ryan Little production.
Dead Island. Now wait. Now, don't lynch me and just hear me out, because I know what most of you are probably thinking. Why is Dying Light number 2, but Dead Island number 1? Okay, fair question. Technically speaking, yes, Dying Light is the overall better game. Better graphics, better mechanics, improved combat, less buggy. But for me, Dead Island was what I always wanted from a zombie game. What I always envisioned a zombie game to be. An open world to explore with zombies strewn throughout. It was really the first of its kind as a zombie game. You have missions, you level up and unlock new skills, you fight special infected along with regular zombies, you have multiple locales to explore, you can loot everything, make creative weapons. Everything is fun. It's a survival horror game that doesn't take itself too seriously, and I believe this contributes to the fun. That being said, however, there are parts that I find surprisingly scary and can make me feel a little unnerved. In the beach resort section, the beginning of the game, you start off in the wake of the aftermath of the zombie outbreak. Something I've always appreciated is how the game shows the environment of how the chaos ensued. Piled up suitcases from people trying to leave in a panic, crashed charter buses, etc. It's always in the middle of the day on the beach resorts, but there always seems to be these dark areas from trees or what have you that zombies tend to hide in, and it can be hard to spot them until you make your way by just to get grabbed by a zombie. And then you have the city of Moresby, which is probably my favorite locale in any zombie game, which can also be very unnerving due to the incredible use of atmosphere. It's a real cramped city, and it's very clear that things went south here real fast. There's zombies lumbering around everywhere. It always creeped me out when I needed to go through alleys and would see their silhouettes walking about in the distance if I had to go that way. The atmosphere to me is at its best when it begins to rain and thunder. It just contributes to that classic horror vibe. Of course, you have story missions and a multitude of side quests you can do. There's things you can find like collectibles or rare blueprint mods from searching around. And if you have any friends to play with, you can just screw around and make your own game within a game. I've played through this game from beginning to end 3 different times. It's fun playing solo, it's fun playing with friends, it's just fun. Plain and simple. And that's why it's my #1 zombie game in gaming. Okay guys, so there you have it. My top 10 zombie games in gaming. Again, if there was a game on here that you expected to be on here and it didn't show up, well, I mean, I probably didn't play it. As for every single game that's mentioned on this list, I could go on and on and on. I can easily make a video about any one of these games in particular, as opposed to just putting them in a top 10 list. If that's something you guys want to see, let me know, I just might do it. So anyways, you guys, that's pretty much it for me. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do so. I'll have more stuff soon. And if you didn't enjoy the video, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know what I could have done better. That being said, till next time.